Hey gang, this is Mr. Bill at Yes with your first Scratch lesson. On your screen right now is a game we've built. Let's go ahead and play it. If I click on the green flag, the bowl goes back and forth, left to right, right to left. You'll notice there's a score in the upper left-hand corner, and there are 5 numbers. Those numbers could be anything, but in this case, since we're designing this game for little kids, let's make them simple numbers. Our job is to click on those numbers and see if we can catch them as they fall in the bowl. So let's try the 1 first. I'm going to click on the 1 and see if we can't catch it as it begins to fall. Whoops! Didn't do too well that time. Well, let's try the 2. Okay, there goes the 2. Let's hope the bowl is back in time to catch the 2. Yes! So we scored 1. Okay, let's try the 5. Down it comes. Is it going to make it? No! Oh, darn it. Well, we'll do better with the 4, I'm sure. Yes, we caught the 4. Okay, so now we've got 2 out of a possible 5. So we're going to try the 3 again. Oh, so we got them. We got 3 out of 5. Not great, but... So, how do we build this game? In Scratch, once you're logged in, you end up with 3 different screens. One screen has all of your code. One screen has all of the code when it's put together in a program. And the piece up here shows you what's happening in your game. So let's go ahead and build this game together. So I'm going to go up to File and click on New. And that will give me a new project screen. Let's take a look around before jumping into the game. The first thing you see is the cat over here. The cat's name is Scratch, of course, and Scratch is a sprite. If you click on Scratch, you can move her anywhere. Okay? And we can even animate her, make her go from side to side. Let's actually try that. Let's put her in the center. And let's grab a piece of code and animate Scratch. Most of the time, the first piece of code we want to put out there is out of the event. Over here, on all the way to the left, you'll see events. If you click on that yellow button, that will take you to all the events code. And let's grab when the green flag is clicked and drag it over here. And that's going to pretty much start and stop our programs, that green flag. So what do we want Scratch to do? We want Scratch to go over to this side of the screen and then maybe turn around and come back and go to that side of the screen. Okay, let's try that. So that's going to be motion. So we're going to click up here under motion, and we're going to want Scratch to move 10 steps. So I'm going to pull over the little puzzle piece called Move 10 Steps. And every time I click on that puzzle piece, you'll see Scratch will move 10 steps. It's actually not steps, it's really pixels, which are a lot smaller than what you and I think of when we say steps. Okay? Well, we want her to move to the right 10 steps, but we want her to keep doing it. So let's make her do it over and over. So let's go back to Control, and let's repeat it forever. So I'm going to drag this repeat loop. She's going to keep doing whatever's inside of that loop forever. So I'm going to grab my 10 steps, move it inside the forever loop, and then plug that up under the green flag. So let's see what happens if I click on forever. I can start her moving by, if I move this down here, I can click on forever and she'll keep doing it. Okay? Or I can, when it's connected to the green flag, if I bring her back, I can click on the green flag and have her move forever in that direction. So I'm going to stop her here by clicking on the stop sign, and now I'm going to click on the green flag. Okay, well, she hits the edge of the screen and just stops, but she's still moving, but you just can't see her move because she's hit the edge of the screen. So I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to put something else. I'm going to drag her back into the center, and I'm going to put something else in that forever loop so that when she hits the edge of the screen, maybe she bounces off. So let's look and see if there's anything there that would help. How about this? If we scroll down a little bit, if on edge, bounce. I like that. So we're going to move 10 steps, and we're going to check to see if she's at an edge, and if she is, she's going to bounce. So let's go ahead and click on the green flag. Oh, well, that's not quite what we want. We don't want her to turn upside down. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. And let's see if we can keep her from flipping over when she reaches the edge of the screen. So here we are. We're looking at our kitty cat, Scratch, and she's down here. So if I click on her sprite, I now have all of this information I can play with, and it turns out what we want is in direction. So I'm going to click on direction, and there's a little symbol over here called Do Not Rotate. You can see it all the way over on the right-hand side. So I'm going to click on Do Not Rotate. So I'm going to click back in here, and that will go away. So now when I click on the green flag, Scratch does like that, but that's not really very realistic. So let's stop her again. Let's see if there are any other possibilities. So let's click on direction again. And this time, we want her to turn from left to right. Okay, let's see what happens if we do that. So we've got do not rotate and turn from left to right. So we're now going to hit the green button. Oh, I like that much better. Okay, let's go ahead and do that with the bowl that goes back and forth. So I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to get rid of Scratch the cat, and I'm going to put a bowl in there. The way I do that is to click on the trash can down at her sprite, and come over here to choose a sprite, and let's look for a bowl. So I'm going to click on choose a sprite, and I can look under food for a bowl. And there it is. So let's select a bowl. I clicked food and now bowl. And I now have a bowl down here where Scratch the cat used to be. And I want to write the same piece of code for the bowl that I do for Scratch the cat. So I'm going to bring the bowl down here and put it at the bottom where it's going to be in our game. And I'm going to grab from events when the green flag is clicked. And you'll notice right now that there's a picture of the bowl up here where I'm writing my code. And that tells me that the code that goes in here is for this sprite. So if you're ever looking at code and you're wondering whose code is that, look up here and you'll see a picture. You can also see that it's highlighted down here. So now I want to move our friend forward, but we know that we're going to do it more than once. We're going to do it for the entire time that the game is playing. So I'm going to come down here and grab control. And as soon as you grab control, you see that you can repeat something a number of times, or you can repeat it forever. You're going to find in building games, usually you repeat forever. So I'm going to drag this in here. And what do we want to repeat? We want Scratch to go forward. Sorry, not Scratch, the bowl. So we're going to go to Motion, and we're going to have the bowl move 10 steps or 10 pixels forward, which in this case is to the right. And we remember from when we were playing with Scratch that when we reach the edge, we want the bowl to bounce off. Now, a question comes up, do we need to make sure that the bowl doesn't turn around? Well, we certainly need to make sure that the bowl doesn't flip over, because if we run this right now, it will flip over. So let's say do not rotate, but does it have to switch from right to left? Not really, because it's a round bowl, so it won't make much difference. So make sure we put on do not rotate, and let's give it a try. So we come up here and we click on the green. And there goes the bowl. And when it gets to the other edge, boom, it bounces off. So that's the first part of the game. So we'll stop that. Okay, now here's a trick. I'm going to separate the green flag from the rest of the code by grabbing the code that's underneath and dragging down. If I want to test out a piece of code that I've just written, I do not have to come up and click on the green flag. Let's say I just want to do something with the bowl, and I have all sorts of other objects on here. All I have to do is click on the bowl code, and there it goes. And then if I click on it again, it'll stop it. So that's a neat way of testing code without running the whole game. All right, so I'm going to put this back together. And now we know as part of the game, we're going to need a score. Where do we find score? Well, score is hidden in variables, and we need to give it a name. We're going to collect how many times you catch the number in the bowl. So I'm going to create a variable called make a variable, and I'm going to give it the name score. Okay, and I don't know how I'm going to use it yet, so I'm going to make it available for all sprites. And you notice as soon as I do that, it shows up on the screen. So if I were to look at the screen in big size, full screen, there it is. Okay. If I didn't want it to show up, I could go back here to variables and unclick it. And if I unclick next to score, it disappears. But I want it to show up, so I'm going to leave it clicked. All right, now I need some numbers. Okay, those numbers are going to be sprites. So I need to come over here and I need to choose a sprite, click, and I'm going to look under all, and I'm going to look for a number. So I'm going to click in the search bar, and I'm going to write the word as soon as I write NUM, it knows what I'm looking for. So I'm going to grab number 1, and you see as soon as I click it, it puts it down here, and it also puts it on the screen. So I'm now going to put the number 1 by dragging it up here, underscore, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab another number, two, and I'm going to move 2 next to 1, and I'm going to grab 3, I'm going to put 3 up there and keep them nice and even. I'm going to do 4. And I'm going to grab 5 by clicking and writing num. And there's number 5. Okay, number 5, as you can see, is down here below my screen. There's number 5. So I'm going to take number 5 and put number 5 up here. Okay. Now I can space them out a little bit to get them just where I want them. And notice as I click on each one, it changes the code area where I'm going to be working. It also is highlighted down here on the bottom. So I'm going to write some code for number 1. Now here's an interesting point. If I'm going to start writing code for number 1, you can see that number 1 is up here at the top of the screen. And at the end of my game, I'm going to want number 1 to return to the top of the screen. Okay? So the first piece of code I'm going to write for each of these numbers is something that will return it to the top of the screen. Okay? And that's going to happen when the game starts. Well, the game starts when we click on the green flag. So I'm going to come over here to Events, and I'm going to grab when the green flag is clicked. Notice that I'm working with sprite number 1. Sprite number 1 down here, and any code I write is just for that sprite. If I wanted to go back and look at the code I wrote for the bowl, I would have to click on bowl down here. So if I clicked, that takes me back to my bowl code. But I'm writing code for number 1. So here we are. What do we want it to do? When the game starts, we want to make sure that it's up in its regular position. Okay, and the way I'm going to do that is go to Motion, and I want it to go where it is right now. Well, where is it right now? If you look down here on the right, its X position is minus 196, and its Y position is 108. Okay? Notice over here in the code area, it says go to minus 196 plus 108. So I'm going to drag that in. It knows where the number 1 is at any point. If I were to move the number 1 somewhere else, this go to would change. So that's what I wanted to do at the beginning of the game, is to make sure it's up there. Now you remember when we were playing the game that once the number is caught by the bowl, it disappears. And we call that hiding. Well, I want it to show up. So I'm going to go to Looks, and if I scroll down a little bit, I'm going to see Show and Hide. Well, I want to make sure it's showing up at the top at the beginning of the game. So I'm going to grab the Show puzzle piece, the block, and stick it in over there. So at the beginning of the game, when the green flag is clicked, it will go to minus 196 and 108. And it will show, it will appear. Okay? So I'm going to move that code out of the way a little bit, and I'm going to write the code for it to be able to drop. Now, do you remember when it dropped? It dropped when I clicked on it. So let's see, that would probably be under Control. So if I scroll down here, I can see, actually it's not under Control, it's under Events. It's under when this sprite is clicked. Okay, It looks almost the same color as the events, as the controls. Okay, so it's under events, and when this sprite is clicked, what do I want it to do? Well, I want it to go all the way down to the bottom of the screen. So I want it to fall. And I want it to keep falling until it touches the edge. Okay, let's see if I can find something that would work there. So if I come down here to events and a little farther to control, I have something called a repeat until, and that's all the way down here. So I want it to keep falling and falling and falling until it hits the edge. Okay, so how does it know it's hit the edge? Well, it senses it. So I'm going to click over here on sensing, and when it's touching, I'm going to grab that and drag it over here, and I'm going to put it, notice the unusual shape. I'm going to put it inside that shape right there. And I'm going to change mouse pointer to edge. And you'll notice before I select that it also lets you know if it's touching anything else on the screen, the numbers or the bowl. But in this case, I'm going to put down edge. And I want it to repeat until it's touching the edge. I want it to move down. Okay, how do we move down? Well, first of all, we'll go to motion, and we'll see that we can move down, and that's in the y-axis. You remember that from your math class. Up and down is y, right to left is x. So I want it to change its y position, and in this case, I want it to go down, and I'm going to make that -2. And how do I know it's -2? Well, I experimented. And that's how you're going to find out a lot of these numbers. So it's going to drop until it hits the edge, and it's going to change by -2. Okay? So let's see if that works. Let's go ahead and let's hit the green flag. As soon as we do that, the bowl starts moving, right? I'm now going to click on that sprite. And notice that it stopped moving once it hit the edge. Nothing else happens, it just goes down and hits the edge. I'm going to stop that again. I'm now going to start it, and there it goes up to the top. That's this code at work, putting it back at the top. And I'm now going to click on it. And it stops when it hits the edge. Okay, so we know that's working. Let's go ahead and write a little bit more code. If it touches the bowl, we want something to happen. What do we want to happen? Well, we want to change the score. You want to get a point when it touches the bowl. And we also want it to disappear. Okay, so we have to check on that. We have to see, is it touching the bowl? So let's take a look down here at control. And that's an if statement. If it's touching the bowl, let's do something. So I'm going to grab that if, and I'm going to put it in underneath the change y by -2. Okay, so we want to check and see if it's touching the bowl. Gee, that looks an awful lot like this code touching the edge. There are two ways I can do this. I can go get another touching the edge, but I like to save a little bit of time, so I'm going to right-click on this piece of code right here, touching edge, and one of my choices when I right-click is duplicate. So I now have another one of those, and I'm going to stick it in here, but we don't want to say, in this case, touching edge. We want to change it to touching bowl. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and set this up at the beginning and stop it. So when it touches the bowl, I want that score to go up by 1. Well, don't forget the score is a variable, so I'm going to click on variables. And wow, it's already written something. It's going to change my variable by 1. In this case, I want it to be change the score by 1. So I'm going to drag that out. I'm going to change the score by 1. Okay, so let's see if this works. I'm going to start the game, and I'm going to wait until it gets there. Is it going to get back in time? No, it didn't. Okay, so I'm going to stop the game, green flag. This time I'm going to try to be a little bit better at catching it. Oh, I missed it again. So I'm going to start the game over again. Wait till it gets in the right position. This sometimes takes a little bit of a while. Whoa! Look at that. I got a score of 14. Why on earth would that be? If you look over here at the code, it says if it's touching the bowl, then up the score by 1. Well, every time it was sitting there next to the bowl, it was upping the score by 1. So we have to stick in another piece of code to make sure that this guy disappears as soon as he hits that bowl. And what I'm going to do is go to looks and grab down here, lower part of looks, grab hide. And I'm going to stick hide in there. Okay, I'm now going to stop. And I'm going to hit the green. Okay, here we go. Try to catch it again. Okay, this time 15 again. So we're going to stop. Start it again. Gee, there's something funny. It keeps going up. Oh, I know what. We didn't tell it to 0 the score. At the beginning of each game, we have to tell it to 0 the score. So let's stop this. Now, where are we going to tell it to 0 the score? Anywhere there is a green flag button, because that means at the beginning of the game. So let's go back quickly and look at the bowl and see if that would be a good place to set the score back to 0. I think it would be. Before the bowl even starts moving, let's set the score back to 0. So I'm going to click on, notice I'm in bowl. Let's click down here, and I'm in the bowl code. I'm going to go to variables, and I am going to set my variable to 0. Stick that in right here, and instead of my variable, I'm going to set the score to 0. Okay, now let's go back. Still working on number 1. Let's go ahead and hit the green flag. Okay, it reset the score to 0. I'm going to get ready. Okay, nothing happened. Didn't get a score. So I'm going to start it again. I'm going to wait until it's going this way. Nope, I'm not very good at this. I'm going to click again. Yeah, got it this time. And there's my score. Okay, it appears to be working. Now, once it's working, you are going to be able to share that code with all of the other numbers, so you don't have to write it for everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the green flag and then stop. And I am going to take this code. This is when the sprite is clicked. It's going to be the same for every single one of those numbers. So I'm going to click and drag that code down here on top of the number. Okay, let's see if that worked. I'm going to click on the number 2. And there it is. So the number 2 got that code. All right, I'm going to now take that same code, drag it over to number 3. Let's check number 3. Yep, it got the code. How about number 4? Drag that code over to number 4. Oop. Click back. Okay, let's see if it got into number 4. Nope, didn't make it. So I'm going to go back to number 3, drag it. Okay, let's see if it made it. Yes. And now I'm going to drag that code to number 5. Good. Okay, check number 5. Nope, didn't make it. So I'm going to go back to number 4. I'm going to drag it onto number 5. Okay, did I make it? Didn't seem to make it. Don't know why it's being difficult. Look at number 4. Scroll down over here. See if it went into number 5. Number 5 doesn't like to get that code. Okay, so we're going to try something else. I'm going to drag this code down into what's called the backpack down at the bottom. You can see it along the bottom of your screen. So I'm going to drag it into backpack. Okay. I'm now going to go down to number 5. I'm going to click on backpack, and it's empty. Well, that code is giving me a hard time. So I'm going to go to number 4 again and try it one more time. Okay, let's see if it made it. It got it this time. Okay, so now we have that code in all of our numbers. And let's go back to the other code we wrote, and that is the code that at the beginning of the game we want it to go to its home position. Okay, we're going to copy this code, but the problem is we're going to have to put a different piece of code here to make sure that it goes to its own position, because number 1 is at 196, 108. Number 2 is in a different position, and so are 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so let's go to number 2, and we are going to build that new position. So I'm going to take the code in number 1, make sure you're in number 1, and drag that code to number 2. Check in number 2, and you see it's sitting right on top of the other one, so you need to move it away. And then move your show down away from it, and click on this one, and you can throw it away just by moving it to the left. Okay, and then go to motion, and now go to X. Now in this case, because we're putting code for number 2, it actually knows what position number 2 should be in. So we've done that. Let's do the same thing for number 3. I'm going to drag this code to number 3, and you'll see how it kind of shimmies and shakes when you drag it in there. And when you get here, it's on top. Move show away, grab this guy, throw him away, and grab go to X. In this case, this is the position number 3 is in. Okay. We're now going to grab this and drag it into 4. Let's see if 4 got it. Yep, 4 got it. I need to scroll up a little bit here. Move that over. Move show out of the way. Grab the X, throw it away. And now here's the new one. This is for number 4. And move show up there. Okay. Now I'm going to drag that into number 5. Hopefully we can get it into number 5 in just one shot. There we go, number 5. So now I'm going to look at number 5, and you can see it's sitting on top. Move show out of the way. Throw this guy away. And there we go. And plug in the correct position for number 5. Okay, that's it. We have built the entire game. We can add all sorts of things like sounds and funny animations and so on. And we'll get to some of those in other lessons. But for right now, let's call it quits. You can click up here to see the game in full screen. And you can click the green flag and start playing.